All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bits About Bots, where I interview experts in the intelligent automation and AI space about what's happening. Now, we've heard a lot of chatter about Agentic over the course of the last 6 months, and there's been a big, strong effort over the last 10 years to consolidate technology. So what is Agentic finally able to do? Consolidate systems, human in the loop, RPA, several of the technologies we've seen in the past. So as this podcast evolves, so do the people on board. And today I am thrilled to introduce Sangita Ray, not only a technical expert, customer success leader, but also a woman in automation. Sangita, thank you so much for joining me today. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Of course, I'm so glad to be here. Really excited to be chatting in today's session.
Awesome. Well, let's kick it right off because I know we have a lot to talk about and short attention spans these days. So let's make sure we get to the meat of it. One of the things that Wonderbots as a diamond partner of UiPath has been especially excited about is your concerted effort and redirection towards customer success and really putting an emphasis on growing accounts, making sure that we're preventing accounts from reducing their footprint, that they're expanding and seeing continuous value from the UiPath product. And partners have been a big part of that. And I think by recognition, you guys have put into place some new measures. We're really excited about the customer success advisory board that you guys recently instituted. So as we kind of look to partner closer on growing accounts, expanding footprints, adding Agentic everywhere, I wanted to start by asking you just what is one of your favorite customer success stories or a client that just really got it? Tell us a little bit about, how that gets measured. What did good look like as some of these people are just getting started, kind of thinking through what these technologies can offer? Tell us a win story.
Absolutely. Let's start off with your main question. I love that question. I'm so glad you asked because that's truly what I live and breathe day in and day out. So going to your core question, like how does a customer success get measured? So the key metrics we leverage for measuring our customer success are primarily in 5 main buckets: value realization, product adoption, customer health, engagement strength, and of course the sentiment. So when I talk about value realization, it's all about the ROI, the cost and time savings, and also the KPIs tied to the business transformation. Product adoption is pretty obvious, right? It's the percentage of licenses activated, the feature adoption rates, maybe the frequency and depth of usage. Customer health is more about how many tickets are open, how soon did they get closed, and stuff like that. One of my favorite ones is definitely the engagement strength. Is there executive alignment? How often are we having strategic touch points? Are they ready to be our advocates? And then we have the sentiment metrics as well, like NPS and CSAT. So going back to your other part of the question, like a success story. So a standout success for me was transforming a near churn customer to one of the most engaged and strategic partners. So last year, I inherited one of the largest customers. They were a little bit frustrated, a little disengaged. There was no executive buy-in, and the prior customer success relationships had failed as well. So what I did was I introduced a white glove co-innovation program, giving them direct access to product SMEs, the strategic insights from our thought leaders, and very tailored professional services. And the turnaround, Paula, was remarkable. We got more than 100% product activation, a 35% adoption increase. There was huge growth in ARR as well. And most importantly, they became vocal advocates for us at industry events. So this experience was not just to save the account. I think it was a blueprint of how we use with our other strategic customers as well. So just a powerful reminder is, when we truly co-create with our customers, we just don't retain, we expand.
Oh, I think that's so brilliantly said, because co-creating not only gets our chops churning, but it increases the learning cycle for everybody. And then, and again, that repeatable is what makes it comforting for people to adopt technology. We live and breathe it, so it's not intimidating to us, but just so many, the idea of transforming their organization is so daunting that the more we can make it just predictable, and this is what you're going to expect next, it's like walking them through, that journey hand in hand. One of the things I think that you and I share is a passion for educating, right? And I think we've been in an educational motion in this industry since RPA. We're translating not only acronyms, but concepts. When does machine learning come into play versus, when do I need to have a robust, AI digital reader versus OCR is enough. And so in evaluating all of these different capabilities to kind of put together your program, it sometimes can be daunting, especially when we have new things that come out all the time. It's like, oh, I just learned that other thing, now I have to understand agentic. So, with the advent of orchestration, Maestro was named. I love all the musical alliteration and metaphors that are being used. But with that big launch that UiPath had in a subsequent rebrand last week, we're seeing so much agentic AI. That's all we're talking about. And so what are some of the ways that you're helping educate, clients to understand this wave when you're just having conversations, like you said, of adoption of the old stuff? How do you introduce new stuff and begin to educate the importance of integrating all of these technologies?
Yeah. I think first part is absolutely going and talking to them about what the new technology is, but even before that, understanding how exactly the new technology can add value to the existing processes, the existing setup they have. And then instead of using the technology jargons, it's about explaining what it means for them. So one of the best ways I like explaining it to them is, what? Agents are like having interns. They can think, they can act, they can learn, but then they don't get bored. And orchestration helps put everything in process. Like that's where the leadership kicks in. It's about guiding these digital interns to make sure they work in harmony with the humans and systems altogether. So the way we go and work with them, Paula, is we usually target processes which are sort of straightforward, which already have RPA involved in that. And then we go and figure out what their pain points are and where decision making, autonomous decision making can help the process even more. And we talk to them about agents, figure out what kind of stuff they would want agents to do, and then train them maybe on agent builder and stuff like that and do a pilot. It has been pretty successful with our customers, and we're really looking forward to where it takes us next.
That's so awesome. And I think with what we do as well is there's an educational component for our clients in adoption, and then our sellers on how to explain adoption. But then we're also creating new career paths, which is, I think, another thing that you and I really share a passion about. And so one of the things that I love to ask, and it changes week to week, honestly, because we learn new things and find different ways to kind of educate ourselves. But to young professionals who are seeking, a job, maybe they're, an accounting major in college right now, and they're hearing all this stuff about AI. What would you say to young professionals and maybe kiddos coming out of school? We're in graduation month right now in May. What would you say to them thinking through a career in AI? How would you get tapped in? What is the roadmap? How do you know you even have interest in this to kind of move forward?
Absolutely. You're right. The automation, the AI industry is evolving so fast, and I think that's what makes it so exciting. And all the young professionals are very curious about it as well. So my top three advice, Paula, would be the first thing is just stay curious and adaptive. You wouldn't know till you explore. The space is changing so fast on a weekly, on a daily basis, from RPA to Gen AI to agentic systems, as you said, right? So what's cutting edge today might be just a baseline tomorrow. So I think the first step starts from educating yourself, subscribe to newsletters, follow some thought leaders, ask those questions. And then also think about the why, just not just the how of it, right? When it comes to automation or AI, anybody can learn a tool. So instead of mastering any particular platform or technology, I think it's very important for young professionals to understand how automation or AI can solve any business problem. So it's important to learn to speak the language of impact, ROI, efficiency, and customer experience. And then knowing whether this is a career path for them, I would say that for anybody in automation AI space, it's very important to have a strong foundation in process thinking, whether you're technical or not. If you want to be in the automation space, grasping how processes work and how to optimize them is core.
Yes, no, I think that's absolutely true. There's some foundational elements that is not about the technology itself. And so I think that's wise to kind of take a generalist approach to some of these new technologies and just see where the application of them could make sense, be able to have literacy in those talk tracks and how the processes connect and kind of affect each other. Are there any technologies in particular that you think are going to gain traction in the next, year, 5 years?
That's a tough one. Things are changing at such an exponential pace, Paula. I mean, if I have to bet on one game changer over the next few years, I mean, definitely it's Agentic AI, right? The big players, Microsoft, ServiceNow, SAP, Salesforce, and of course, UiPath. We all are already investing heavily on it. I was actually at a conference last week, and oh my God, Paula, the startups are flooding the space. They're building agents tailored for every persona, like agents,
Yes.
customer success agents, sales engineer agents, onboarding agents, like anything, you name it, they're building it. So there will be a huge, huge rise of digital co-workers.
Yeah.
Yesterday, actually, I came across a LinkedIn post where a leader was proudly sharing, I manage a team of 33, and out of that, 21 are digital workers. So that's what we'll be seeing in a few years for sure.
Yeah, no, and I'm just so excited. I mean, personally, I've been calling this digital BPO, outsourcing to the cloud, a number of different engagements with some of the analysts like Gartner, Forrester, thinking through this concept, because I think once we truly put the agent in the same type of commercial consideration as a full-time equivalent when you're doing an outsourcing labor arbitrage calculation, then it's going to make a lot more sense. When you're talking about not having a real estate cost or a rental cost for office space, your cost of ownership and strategy becomes so much more fruitful and long-term, because as your business grows, your back office doesn't have to grow. And
Exactly.
and that's all we've been talking about. So I think, humanizing, for lack of a better word, FTEing, because there's some thought, having a delegation of duty, which are job roles. We're truly personifying these digital workers, digital agents, robots, whatever you've called them. And all it is they've gotten smarter. I mean, the machines learned, it's past tense. They learned, and now that they've learned, we can put them together, and kind of like our transformers can be, exactly what we need them to be. So I think that's absolutely spot on. So let's pivot a little bit to industry, because in general, a lot of these technologies, they touch base with different functions, right? We've talked about customer success. We've talked about, client onboarding. We've talked about back office. Even sales and marketing is beginning to emerge a lot in discussions with clients, which has been really fun and exciting. But when you look at the industries that are really taking mass adoption, the predominant areas that we're seeing, adoption questions, interest, even all the way as a cold prospect from intent to buy parameters, we're seeing a lot in all supply chain related elements, right? So manufacturing industry, retail, e-commerce, even in those areas, you're seeing a lot of disruption, a lot of hesitation, interest, but not spend. So, as things are changing, and I know we always have to take in, kind of the macro factors at play, everything that we have going on. How have you really seen, the customer success and the customer engagement and supply chain engagements? How do we get clients to see that it can be end to end? It's not just about entering the order into the system. How do we get them to think bigger and transformatively with things that touch multiple systems, multiple stakeholders, multiple business units? Would love some feedback from you from what you've seen in the field.
Yeah. I think it's very important to show them the art of possible, but also discuss on the art of practical. So my approach always have been start small, get some quick wins, show them how easy it is to do it, the fast time to value, and then go towards the bigger one. Because once they see the success, the floodgates open. So that's exactly how we have been approaching our customers. And irrespective of the industry, Paula, like my focus, my current book of business is in insurance and financial services. We're seeing, despite being a regulated industry, we are seeing huge adoption there. And that is just one of the industries, like in healthcare, in high-tech technology, everywhere, everybody is just, they want to be at the competitive edge. They're open to learn more. They're nervous, but then once they know what it entails and the value it can bring, they're fully open to embrace it.
No, and I think that's right. That's about evangelizing it in a way that's adoptable.
Exactly.
You only gain adoption when you're actually, transparent about it and say, let me show you what this map looks like. Because there is a part that's a climb. But once we get to the other side of that, like you said, the floodgates are going to open, both in value and adoption across the enterprise. So, one of the other things I think that we've seen is that organizations have to maintain either by compliance, you mentioned healthcare, there's some regulations that you just can't, get around or change, but also by culture. So what would you say to an organization, on the brink of adoption of technology, who's concerned about losing their core competencies or the way that they've always done business, or maybe, the culture that they've always been used to? How would you help them understand, the value of change management, and what kind of elements we can put in place there to kind of assuage the changes in a way that's adoptable?
Yeah. So I think we are at a stage where everybody is anxious, they're a little nervous, but they're eager to know what's coming up. And we're going through waves of transformation, right? Right from early stage automation to AI powered enterprises to like we move from automation first to intelligent first. So people are feeling threatened too. Like everybody's feeling, oh my God, is my job going to go away? So I think one of the things to think about it is it starts from the leadership, for sure. Like creating that change, the change management, making sure that there is alignment. The people first aspect is so critical. The leadership needs to really tell their teams that it's going to help you. It's going to amplify your own personal work, the way you impact and work, for sure. So that definitely is what's going to move the needle.
No, I think so too. And I think as long as everybody aligns on what those measurable milestones are, you're making forward progress, you're affecting, 8% more of the organization, or whatever the metric of success of adoption is there. No, I think that's totally spot on.
I think there are three main principles overall, which are very important when we go through this kind of transformation. So value centric, right? If a technology does not solve the real problem or create value, it's just a noise. So making sure that you're thinking about the value aspect of it right from the beginning. And the second aspect is the execution. Execution beats the ideas. Like shiny tools and technology, they will come and go, but only the organizations which are risk takers, the ones which can move fast, which can deliver consistently, are the ones which are going to win. And then the other thing which we're talking about, the culture and the change management, right? The people are the folks who matter the most. So technology will come and go, but without that alignment, without that culture, you just can't move the needle.
No, I think that's completely true too. And it is a top down, bottom up initiative. It takes everybody in the organization all the way to feedback in the field, to strategy and policy, from the top down to make these things work, especially with privacy settings, especially with what AI is capable of doing today. There's so many considerations. Even having an AI policy in place is something that organizations are being, recommended to do now as they kind of think through how this works. So it's just been a very interesting transition time for our clients, and then newcomers to the scene, I think. So lastly, Sangita, and I could talk to you for 100 years. It's always such a pleasure connecting with you. One of the other things, and I think where we finally bumped into each other and said, okay, we're going to call each other and we're going to, make sure that we connect, was on the initiative of women in automation. And I think we share similar values in that perspective too, of just evangelizing and helping women see that there's a place, of value and very important opportunities in this space. So I know you do a lot of mentorship. You're very involved in the intern program at UiPath, which I admire from a distance. I've seen a lot of rock stars come through that program and get promoted along the way and really have a career advancement path. But there is still this truth that we are outnumbered as women in this space. So how do we plan on moving the needle in that regard? What initiatives do you have coming up this year? And what advice would you give to women, kind of seeking roles, in this space? What should they do to stand out or to get involved?
Absolutely. So let's call what it is, right? Yes, the room might be unbalanced, but I think it's very important that the young women, like they realize that they should not let that intimidate you. Let it motivate you. You're there not to fit in, but to stand out. So I have built my entire career, Paula, in rooms where I was the minority. I still am, but still I led, I influenced, I transformed outcomes. And just a disclaimer, you've seen me. I'm 5 feet tall, brown skinned, immigrant, and sort of soft voice. So some tactics which have helped me and which I always advise other women professionals as well is invest in your skills, but double down on your confidence. I personally have always taken courses to enrich my skills, keep a close pulse on what's going in the market. But most importantly, it has been critical to learn to speak my value. Self advocacy is very, very important. My advice to others would be raise your hand, even if you're not ready, and worse come worse, fake it till you make it. The second main advice I would give is build your network intentionally. Find the mentors, find the allies and sponsors, and give back. Be one for others. And don't wait to get invited to a circle, create your own.
Oh, that's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. Uh, Going to the second part of your question about initiatives at Women in Automation Council. So, we have gone beyond the feel good conversations and leaned into high impact, high visibility initiatives. So, things like fireside chats and panels with women leaders, not just to inspire, but to open doors and demystify the pathways in success and leadership. I'm very proud of a Day in a Life series we did last year, which gave women early in their careers or maybe considering a pivot, an unfiltered look into various roles and journeys in automation. We are also partnering with customers and community groups because changing the narrative, it's not an internal task. It requires the entire ecosystem to come together and collaborate. So yeah, I'm very proud of what all we are doing. We have built a platform where women don't just see what's possible, they really start believing what's possible for them.
That's so fantastic. No, and I've been such a fan, as a partner, from many different angles of UiPath and the work that you guys do there. And I think, the more that we encourage and enable and empower and show what different facets of the industry look like, there's a huge opportunity, for everyone. So it's a great chance for there to be a leap in women in STEM, women in technology, women that are rising in the ranks of intelligent automation and AI. Well, Sangita, that concludes this podcast, but I am sure that at another time, we'll have you back. We're going to have to see the reveal as Agentic continues to take off. And for those of you who don't know, and she will also be joining us with a couple other clients at the end of this month. So this is going to be a deep dive into Agentic with Sangita, some of the ways that they've been putting agent boot camps together, not only agent boot camps, but also build an agent, almost like a Build-A-Bear session at client sites too. So we'll be picking her brain about that, asking how she's doing there, and that registration will be available on this share. Sangita, one more time, thank you so much for joining Bits About Bots and sharing your experience. I am sure we'll have you on again soon. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and have a great day.
My pleasure. Thank you. Talk to you again soon.